Hey, Frank here, Couples Counselor. Today I want to talk to you about the importance of listening to your wife. And there's a thing that's thrown around in the counseling world and leadership and team building and organization where it's called active listening. Active listening is so important because if you don't learn how to listen actively, listen carefully, then what happens is the message is not received, people don't feel understood, people don't feel heard. And in my line of work of doing counseling with couples, what happens is the wife feels unheard. There's a distance over time that happens in a relationship because although the husband may have heard what was said, it wasn't listened. It wasn't listened. And I'm pointing to the head and the heart because listening requires the head and requires your heart. Hearing is just going one ear and going out the other. You heard the message, you heard what was being said, but you didn't listen. When I was growing up, my dad or my mom, he actually would also say, so tell me things, and I would respond by saying, yeah. And I'm on my video games playing, doing remember that game Contra, right? Up, down, left, right, A, B, select, start, right? I got that 30 lives or whatever it was, and I'm doing my video game and I'm blasting my way through it. And my mom would tell me something like, make sure you do the laundry, make sure you take out the trash, make sure you clean the bathroom. And I'm like, yeah, got it, mom, got it. And they would come home from wherever they were and the trash wasn't taken out, the bathroom is still dirty, and all these things are not done. Why? Because I heard the message, but I didn't listen. I didn't pay attention to what was said. In a lot of ways that happens in marriages. They don't pay attention fully to what the wife was saying, what the partner was saying. Today I want to give you a what's called active listening 101. Active listening 101. And notice it's called active listening because again, it requires the head and it does require your heart. Well, in marriages, in communication, it takes head-to-head knowledge. You have to connect with your wife from an understanding, a knowledge, brain kind of wavelength, but also requires a heart to heart. You're not just speaking from mind to mind, but it requires us to speak and listen and understand from heart to heart, connecting with your wife heart to heart. You did that when you were dating. You did that to win over her heart, right? What we need to do, active communication requires winning over her heart and cherishing her heart, listening to her heart, not just her mind. A lot of my marriage therapy requires couples, husband or wife, whichever is the one, requires them to come back to this place of listening heart to heart. I want to share with you today how to listen heart to heart. And this is the 101 series of active listening. So the first thing we want to talk about when it comes to active listening is number one, we need to focus fully. Focus fully. And what I mean by focus fully, this is about removing distractions. I go to the example of me playing video games while my mom or dad is telling me to do something. Removing distractions. That means stop or pause whatever I'm doing and turn to the speaker. Fully be attentive, fully paying attention to what the speaker is saying, listening to what and being attentive, focusing in. And when your wife is telling you something that she's sharing with you, maybe it's a complaint, maybe she's having a difficult time, maybe she's sharing whatever, maybe it's about her work, or maybe it's about you. Maybe she's complaining about you and sharing things about you. This is where you have to focus in fully. Now, when it comes to focusing fully, what it requires is you not just remove distractions, but here it is. Also pay attention and write this down. You avoid justification. Avoid justification, avoid being defensive, listening fully to what she's saying to you and not coming back with, well, what about you? What about when you did X, Y, and Z? remove all of that, avoid all of those things, because that is not going to help the communication process. You're not listening, because what you're doing is in your mind, you're forming a rebuttal. You're forming an argument inside of your mind to fire back at your wife, and that doesn't help. You're not understanding fully. The whole objective is, again, of this is to not just listen from head to head, but listen from heart to heart. But when you justify, when you defend, right? This is my thing of when you put a defensive stance, you are removing this opportunity from her to throw her heart at you, and she says no, no, no. And when you justify and you defend, you lose that connection. So it requires us to listen, to focus fully. As men, avoid justifications, avoid being defensive, avoid excuses and why you think you're right and she's wrong. Let me say this: if you think you're right and she's wrong, let's just say you win the argument. You may win the argument, but you lose the relationship. If I win and you lose, we both lose. And so we need to focus fully, remove distractions, avoid justifications, avoid being defensive. The second thing is this. So once you begin to focus and you listen, you hear what she's saying. And a part of this is also, the second step here is summarize succinctly. Summarize succinctly. Summarize succinctly. And the reason why I chose the word succinctly is because we need to make sure that we understand fully the message that that my wife or your wife is explaining to you. Summarize. So what you're saying is A, B, and C. And when you summarize and you say, yeah, so you said, I think I heard you say A, B, and C. It gives her the opportunity to say, no, Frank, I didn't say A, B, C. I said 1, 2, and 3. Oh, my bad. Okay, so let me get this right. You said 1, 2, and 3, right? He says, no, I said 1, 2, and 3. Oh, okay. So 1, 2, and 3. My bad. So you reflect back, you summarize back as succinctly, as precisely as possible, as exact as possible, what you think you heard her say. Right? So you focus fully, remove all the distractions, and you avoid you justifying yourself, you defending your stance and why you did what you did. And then you summarize, you hear her out, you listen, and then you summarize. You summarize, reflect back. Okay, so what I heard you say, and actually that would be a good phrase to use. What I think I heard you say was, right? Or, okay, what you're saying is, and just summarize back what you think you heard her say. It gives an opportunity for her to correct you, and an opportunity for you to make sure that you're getting the information that she's sending to you. The last thing, this is so important. This This last one is huge. Emphasize empathy. Emphasize empathy. Right? Emphasize empathy. Empathize empathy. Yeah, emphasize empathy. Emphasize empathy, right? You focus fully, you summarize succinctly, and you emphasize empathy. This is huge. This is huge, right? Again, I say it in all my videos, all my lessons. When we are actively listening to our wife, our partner, whoever it is, you emphasize. Empathy means you don't give solutions, you don't give strategies. Empathy requires you to validate her emotions. You focus fully. You summarize succinctly. And as you're noticing body language, you're noticing nonverbals, the look on her face, the tone in her voice. Maybe she starts tearing up. Maybe her volume gets louder. Maybe her words get more pointed and focused, and it hurts you, right? You empathize. Understand, your wife is not out to hurt you. Your wife, it may seem like that, but your wife is not out to cut you apart. It may feel like that, it may seem like that, but understand the words that she's using is just her way of getting your attention to try to connect with you, because of all the other efforts that she's tried. It doesn't seem like it's been working. So she may use some words that might hurt you. And so you need to empathize, and you say something to the effect of, sounds like you've been struggling with this for a while, right? That makes sense. In fact, the bottom line to all of this is that you would eventually have this feeling, this tone, or maybe even say, that makes sense. I can see why, I can feel why you hurt this way. I can feel why it's kind of laying heavy on your heart right now. I can see why you're upset about this. That makes total sense. If I was in your shoes, that's what it is, right? You're putting yourself in her shoes, well, right? Her sandals or heels. Ugh, no, but if you're putting yourself in in her place, you're like, you know what? If I was in your place, that makes sense. I can see why you'd hurt that way. I can see why you'd be upset like this. That makes sense. And I apologize if that's how you feel. Right? Again, we're trying to connect heart to heart. Our mind will come up with all these justifications. Our mind will come up with all these reasoning and all these defensiveness and why we're right and she's wrong, right? And understand that the goal is for us to have that part of us where that makes sense. Understand, guys, everybody has a good intention. Even if you're wrong, you had a good intention in why you did what you did. Even if you're wrong, even if she was wrong, she had a good intention in that. We all at this in its basic form, we all have good intentions. Everything we do has good intentions, but it comes out wrong at times. And so this is where we focus fully, summarize succinctly, and emphasize it with empathy, and begin to have this understanding, regardless if it was right or wrong, where it says, you know what, that makes sense. I can see where you're coming from now. If we can suspend our defensiveness and justifications, and if we can be able to share back to her heart, so this is what you gave me, this is what you're saying, right? I think this is what you're sending my way, right? And she's like, yeah, yes. And you come back with empathy, like, man, I'm so sorry you feel that way. I didn't know. Oh my gosh. That I can hear why you're so sad and upset about this. Can you hear in my voice like how that would bring such connection with your wife, your partner, your spouse, when they're able to feel like, okay, she got me, he got me. They understand where I'm coming from. They understand why I acted that way. They understand why I did that. When we can do that in our marriages, can you imagine how much closer, how much stronger, how much more intimate our marriages will be? Because if we can impact our marriages, we can impact our family. And if I can impact the family, we can impact our community. I hope this helps. Enjoy life, everybody.